No matter if you say Drizzt or Drizzt, no matter if you say Menzo Baranzan or Menzo Barazan, hey, take heart. I'll probably say it both ways multiple times this video. Hey, what's up, bookworms and children of the Underdark? Mike back to talk a little Legend of Drizzt today. This, of course, is Forgotten Realms. We're going to begin, guys, by talking the Dark Elf Trilogy by Mr. R.A. Salvatore. Now, this is going to be talking about Homeland. This is going to be talking about Exile. And this is going to be talking about Sojourn. So all three books will be covered in this. This will be a spoiler-free discussion, but plenty of things to talk about as we go. Now, these were released in 1990 through 1991. Really, this was kind of the response to the unexpected popularity of Drizzt Do'Urden in the Icewind Dale trilogy. So R.A. Salvatore said, why don't I go back and write a prequel that happens before this, leading up to the events of the Icewind Dale trilogy. And that kind of takes us where we are here. Now, I talked a little bit more about this when I did my video for why I decided to read The Legend of Drizzt, so you can check that out if you would like to. It kind of gives a little more context to some of the background and, of course, why I decided to do this. But I am happy that I did, and we're going to kind of talk about it today. But we're going to begin, guys, like usual. We're going to talk about what is this story about. Now, the Dark Elf Trilogy tells the origins of Drizzt Do'Urden, from birth and his upbringing amongst the Drow in their home city of Menzo Baranzan. What makes Drizzt different from his brethren is his quest to follow his principles in a land where such feelings are forbidden by his family. But over the years, during his time in Menzo Baranzan, the Academy, the Underdark, and more, Drizzt is on a journey of self-discovery and belonging, leading up to the events of Icewind Dale. So guys, that's as vague as I could be for the Dark Elf Trilogy, because I think if I even give you the synopsis of Book 2, it kind of spoils some things in Book 1, so that's why we kind of did it that way. But I can promise you a lot more happens in this trilogy. We're going to kind of talk about it beginning, guys, with what makes it good or bad. Starting with the good, I gotta say, the house politics in this really, really impressed me. Now, I think it might be because I was sold this series as it's really entry-level fantasy, not very much meat on that bone. So I guess I kind of went into it just expecting a very cut and dry, paint by numbers, entry-level fantasy for, like, junior high level. That's kind of what I was expecting. But I gotta say that while this isn't like overly complex or anything, I gotta say that the house politics really were pretty good. I was actually surprised more than once. There was a lot of twists and turns, a lot of backstabbing. And I love this idea in Menzo Baranzan that you can basically, if you want to be bad, you can, but you better be good at it. Without spoiling for you, if you are not good at it, there are consequences to be paid. But if you are very good at it, you can get pretty high up in the hierarchy there. So it's a very, very interesting community, I guess you would say, down there in Menzo Baranzan. And while I think that R.A. Salvatore doesn't get credit, obviously, for building this world, because this is established already with Dungeons and Dragons, I think he does a good job of kind of spreading it around, letting the culture be known, kind of things like this. So people like me who don't know about Forgotten Realms already, I think he does a good enough job for that. So I'm not going to knock him because he didn't create this, because he's playing in someone else's sandbox. I think he does a really, really great job here of kind of letting you know what things are like. So one thing that I was kind of told by some people is, well, if you haven't really played Dungeons and Dragons, you won't really understand. I disagree. You don't have to play a lick of Dungeons and Dragons to understand this. I think that he spells this stuff out for you pretty well. Now, I will say there is one thing, is that when there are a lot of creatures that are named, he will kind of mention those creatures, like you should just know what they are, like a gnoll, things like that. There's just all kinds of creatures, mind flayers. You should know what that stuff is. There are Dungeons and Dragons manuals that you can look at if you want to see what those creatures look like and things like that, or what they're actually capable of. But I think he does a good enough job that you don't ever really need that. But the visuals are really cool, so I think you could probably look some things like that up. But yeah, I gotta definitely say that I was really, really surprised at how well done the politicking is in this. So if you went into this really expecting nothing there, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. So the action, guys. Now, the action is phenomenal. Now, this is one thing I was sold correctly. I was told that R.A. Salvatore is very, very good at writing the action. And it is. It's very good. Be it sparring, be it training, be it just full-on war. this guy writes a really killer action scene. And I think that some of my favorite action scenes are the ones where it's practice or sparring. Like you'll have Drizzt and Zachnafane just sparring, and they'll actually be having some really good dialogue while they're doing it. So if you like that sword fight in Princess Bride between Wesley and Inigo at the beginning, I think that's really kind of what I imagine in this. Like they're actually kind of bantering a little bit. It's competitive. Don't get it twisted here. They are competitive, and there's a little bit of pride, I think, in there. But the fact that they are actually like having banter back and forth while they're doing some of the sparring, I think that's really cool. And I love the way that he's able to do that. He's able to make something as simple as just some sparring seem like it's got stakes. And I gotta say, in Men's Brands, it always seems like there is some stakes involved, because one wrong move and boom, you have fell out of favor with the higher ups. Let's put it that way. But yeah, the dialogue overall, I think, is pretty good. Another thing I guess I really wasn't expecting, and that's just me, kind of what I've just been, the feedback that I've gotten from a lot of people that, I read this when I was in junior high and things like that. I don't think I could go back to it and read it at this age. Well, this is the first time I've read it, and I'm 43 years old, and I had a great time with it. But I've always been the type that's like, you know what? Not everything has to be crazy, epic, huge world-building fantasy. Some things can just be a good time, and I think he meets all. He checks all the boxes when it comes to that one. I have a great time reading these books, and it really kind of started with the dialogue and the action, as well as the politics. So really good all the way around. I don't have any complaints really there. I love character. You guys know that. Now, obviously, Drizzt is a very cool character. I mean, how can you not like a dual-wielding dark elf that actually has like some morals? At the very beginning of the story, you're being very much in conflict with the rest of everyone else down there with him. So obviously you're always going to like your protagonist. But with this, I think that the side characters, he has some really memorable side characters that I really liked in this. Zachnafane, I think, is just fantastic. Belwar, you learn to love Belwar like anything. Clacker is a great character. Matron Malice sounds like a Marvel villain, but she's awesome, guys. She's really, really cool. I gotta say, Montoya might be one of my favorites in this entire trilogy. So you want like a nice Obi-Wan style kind of mentor character there. I think Montoya is going to check those boxes for you. But another thing about Salvatore I'm learning is he's quite brutal. He's got no problem offing some of your favorite characters. And I should have known that the guy who wrote Vector Prime in Star Wars back in the day, in the first book that he writes in that universe, he kills off a major legacy character. So I guess it shouldn't have been surprising to me. Yeah, this guy's got no problems, whenever it calls for it. And it isn't ever just like, hey, you know what? This character's here, cool. We're just going to redshirt him. It never really feels like that. He does that thing like a John Gwynn where he, old characters have been killed off, new ones are coming in, and then he'll get you attached to those too. And not all of it isn't like everything here, guys, but it will. There are some that will be actually pretty painful for you in this trilogy right here. But, guys, I think the secondary star of the show here is Guinevere. And I'm saying Guinevere. It feels like everyone kind of says it a different name, guys. I don't do audiobooks, so I don't know how these things are said. So I'm going with Guinevere. It was really hard for me not to say Guinevere, obviously being a fan of the Arthurian legend. But I think with the way that's spelled, I'm going with Guinevere. I think that sounds much, much better, and it sounds really, really cool. Already one of my favorite animal companions ever. I wish I had not done my favorite animal companions video yet, because I think I would have had a new addition for sure. And I think it's one of the most unique animal companions for reasons I cannot tell you, because I want you to experience this for yourself. But just know it isn't just a big kitty that he has kind of stumbled upon here. There is very, very many cool attributes to this character, and the bond and the friendship between those two is developed in a way that's very believable. And I think it's my wife always kind of said is you could give a guy a dog or a cat, and within an hour it's like their best friend in the world, and I think that it's very believable that, hey, cool, I got this giant panther here, sure, it's not trying to eat me, yeah, we're gonna be like this really, really fast. And I think that it's developed well as far as short as this series is, because these are really super short, guys. I mean, like I said, all three of these feel like they're shorter than a regular fantasy novel that I would read right now. But yeah, Guinevere is excellent, and I love that relationship between the two of them. But I gotta say that he displays the emotions of Drizzt very, very well. This is a character that is suffering from solitude. This is a character on a journey of self-discovery, trying to find somewhere where he feels like he belongs. And I think that's very much the theme of this trilogy is just trying to feel like finding somewhere where he belongs, because he does not feel like he belongs amongst his own. And I think that's a story that has been told numerous times, and he does it very, very well here. But yeah, just the sense of solitude that he's able to capture in the middle of this trilogy is just so well done. And I was very, 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 very happy with it. And yeah, I think that many of Drizzt's emotions are captured very well here, and it makes you able to relate to this character in a way you probably wouldn't with a protagonist in a series this long quite so quick. But is it all good? Of course not, guys. There's always going to be some things that maybe didn't land for me. Now, these might not be a problem for you. These may be some things that maybe just didn't work for me. I got to start with saying Book 3, Sojourn. This one doesn't feel like it's on the same level as the first two. I felt like the first two were excellent. This one was just okay. And I think the reason is because I feel like it's very disjointed. It definitely feels like if R.A. Salvatore was writing for a magazine and it was like a weekly or monthly release, and then they took all those stories when it was done and compiled it into one book, because it does just feel like Monster of the Week kind of thing, where it's like episode, whereas the first two really felt like a whole story. This one just kind of feels like a bunch of like little side adventures kind of tacked on to make a story. But many people told me that's just because Salvatore had to find a way to get him to Icewind Dale, before this series ended. So I think he probably could have done that one, tracked that timeline a little better, maybe. I think he doesn't do a great job describing time. I think some time periods, some dates or something every once in a while, or just flat out like big bold letters that says years, how many years later, or maybe even like a date or something like that would probably be better, because it is one of those things like, if you blink, you'll miss that 6 years have gone by. And obviously their lifespan, the drow being much, much longer than humans. These things, you could say he does that on purpose to show that time, they don't look at it the same way that we do. But I'm saying that it can get just a little bit jarring sometimes. And we're like, wait, what? How many years have gone by? If you aren't paying super close attention. And I kind of briefly mentioned there, it can feel very Monster of the Week. If you are wanting like long character arcs, I'm not so sure they're going to happen, because I think at least in this trilogy I can think of probably 15 different storylines, and not in a way where it's like, oh, okay, this is like just different threads. It definitely feels like beginning end just in this trilogy alone, about 15 different storylines. So I'm sure that's something that may change a little later if he's going to be doing trilogies or 4-book series for this entire run. That might feel a little different. They might carry on a little bit more. But I mean, Homeland and Exile definitely feel like a book 1 and 2, but book 3 really did just feel tacked on. Almost felt like this should have been a duology. But book 3 also had Montoya, which is one of my favorite characters in this trilogy. So there's good with the bad there. So no real longevity to any one storyline after the events of Menzo Branson. So there's that. But again, I feel like that's kind of being nitpicky. I'm very happy overall. But let's talk about why I think you would be happy and why you should read it. If you love traditional fantasy, guys, and if you're here, you probably do. Even if you just love Dungeons and Dragons, I think you're going to find plenty to love here. It's going to feel like putting back on a familiar, comfortable pair of sweatpants or something. You're going to just drop right in and have a good time. If you aren't looking for, I got to have, an 18-page explanation of the magic system, I got to have at least 100 pages of world building, things like that. You understand this is already an established world, and he's just playing in this sandbox. I think you'll have a great time here. Also, guys, these are breezy reads. I read all 3 of these in a week. I really think that this is, any level of reading that you're at, you can sit down, you can knock out 50, 100-page chunks at once, and they're only like 300 pages a piece. So you can do these really fast. If you're looking for that palate cleanser between epic fantasy reads, I think that they'll be just perfect for you. I think that's what I'm definitely going to be using for. But I don't think it requires a ton of brain power. If that, I know that some people look down when I say that. I'm just saying that it's easy to understand. There is some terminology and things like that you got to learn, but if you don't just define everything, you're going to be okay. I never think that you're going to be like, I don't know what that word means, and now I'm going to be lost the rest of the series. No, guys, it's very much just some in-world words that are used that can kind of fly in one ear and out the other, and you're going to be fine. The narrative is very straightforward and focused, and I think you'll be having a great time without having to exert a lot of energy. You don't have to clear up any file cabinets upstairs to really be able to open a new file here and dip into this world. So if you're reading other heavy fantasy reads, this isn't going to be tough for you. It's not going to confuse you with anything else that you've already read. So that's what I mean by that. And guys, I know that people always kind of say that, oh, well, when you say something's an easy read, it makes it sound like it's just not worth it. I said Dresden Files are easy reads, guys, and that's one of my favorite series. So I don't mean that. So I hope that you guys won't take it that way. So if I have some final thoughts here, guys, this isn't a series that's going to change your life. This isn't anything we're going to be like, whoa, I've never seen this before. You're going to definitely be like, hey, this just feels familiar because these are kind of things that I love. I don't feel like it's a copy of anything. Just saying, if you've read traditional fantasy, there's nothing here that's going to make you be like, whoa, this is so different than anything ever. I don't want you going to it expecting that. There's nothing particularly groundbreaking about this trilogy. That might happen later. Remember, guys, this is all that I've read. But like I said, if you like traditional, old school, like 80s, early 90s fantasy, you're going to dig it. You're going to have a good time. You're going to like this world, and you're going to have a good time with it. And like I said, I keep talking about Dresden Files, but I feel like I've found my Dresden Files replacement. This definitely feels like they can be the thing that where I'm reading the big heavy fantasy books, I can put these 1 or 2 or even 3 in between those and feel like, hey, great. You know, it doesn't require very much thought from me. I can just kind of fit these in whenever I've got a little extra time. As far as like ranking them, I'd probably rank them in order. I'd go Homeland first because I do love beginnings. I do love the coming of age story. Obviously, most of you guys know that by now. That's why I think I'm the only one who likes Empire of Silence and Sunnier better than the rest, because I do love beginnings. I do love coming of age. That is obviously where my bread is buttered. I love that little subgenre there. So it does that very, very well. But I feel like Exile's right there with it. It's very much like a 1A, 1B. Exile is an incredible action book. It's got all types of stuff. You're on the run, your revenge tale. It's got loss. It's got just about everything that you're kind of looking for. And it's one of those things where there is no middle book syndrome in this trilogy. That one would be the third book, I think. It's the one that kind of brings it down here. So I would rank them in order: Homeland, then Exile, then Sojourn. But like I said, 1 and 2, you really could just flip those. And that's just really going to be what you're kind of into. If you're wanting, just your crazy good action book, I think the Exile will be your favorite. If you're wanting, some development of Drizzt as he's growing up, going to the academy, things like that, I think that you'll definitely like Homeland the best. I'm not sure anyone's going to like Sojourn the best. And again, I don't want people to think that I'm saying that as a bad book. Just it doesn't feel as good as these first 2 here. But I do love Montolio, and he has a great part in Sojourn. But I am very excited to continue this series, guys. Don't know exactly when. May and June are very, very full for me right now. So I don't think I'll be able to start Icewind Dale there. But I'm hoping this summer I'll be able to get to Icewind Dale. But I'm definitely going to continue this. I've got the first 10 books on physical now, and I've got the first 37. Or not 37, 27, I think. I forget. I just did a book haul, and I talked about how many digital ones that I had. So I am going to be in this for the long run. It's nothing I'm going to be running through. It's going to be something that just, hey, like I said, I've got some extra time. Why don't I pick one of those up or one of the Cradle books? That's kind of going to be like my little side reads whenever I have some time amongst all these mammoth doorstopper books that I plan on reading over the course of the next year or 2. So, guys, have you read the Dark Elf Trilogy? What did you think? Am I in for some surprises with Icewind Dale? Is this series just going to get better and better? I just barely scraped the surface here. Hey, no problems. No spoilers, please, but drop in the comments below and let me know. And if you've read Dark Elf for the first time with me, hey, drop down there and let me know what you thought as well. I can't wait to talk to you guys about it. So thanks for watching, and I will talk to you down below.